The rain in Oregon has a way of silencing the world. It drums a steady, hypnotic rhythm on the metal roof of my workshop, a sound that usually brings me peace. It was 6:30 on a Tuesday morning, and the coffee in my mug was steaming hot, black as crude oil, just the way I like it. I'm Phillips. Most folks in town just call me Phil. I've got grease permanently etched into the fingerprints of my hands and a back that complains whenever the barometric pressure drops. I spent 40 years fixing transmissions and aligning axles, learning that machines are honest. If a machine breaks, there's a reason. People, on the other hand, break for no reason at all, and they rarely tell you why. Inside the house, the silence was heavy, but it was a good kind of heavy. It was the sound of safety. My two grandkids, Leo and Mia, were still asleep. Leo is 11 now, obsessed with robotics and quiet as a mouse. Mia is 9, a firecracker with messy hair who thinks she can talk to animals. They are the only reason my heart still bothers to beat. I was flipping pancakes, listening to the sizzle of the batter, thinking about the science fair coming up. Leo needed a new servo motor for his project. I did the mental math. My Social Security check was barely covering the property taxes this year. I had about $40 in my wallet. I'd have to pick up an extra shift at the scrapyard down on Route 9 to afford the parts, but I didn't mind. Seeing Leo's eyes light up when he solved a problem was worth every aching muscle. It's strange how your life can shatter in the time it takes to flip a pancake. My daughter left my two grandkids at my house for just one day, but never came back. 7 years later, she came with a lawyer and accused me of kidnapping them. But when I showed the envelope to the judge, he was stunned and asked, "Do they know about this?" I replied, "Not yet." I didn't know that moment was coming. I didn't know that the envelope taped behind the family portrait in the hallway was about to become the most dangerous weapon I owned. Before I tell you how my world fell apart, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one, and it reminds me I'm not alone in this fight. I heard the gravel crunch in the driveway first. It wasn't the mail carrier. They don't come this early. It was heavy tires. Multiple vehicles. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked toward the front window. Before I could even touch the curtain, the front door didn't just open. It disintegrated. The sound was like a thunderclap inside my skull. Wood splintered and flew across the living room carpet. I stumbled back, my hands instinctively going up, not to surrender, but to shield my face from the debris. "Police! Get on the ground! Now!" Men in tactical gear swarmed my small living room like angry hornets. Red laser dots danced across the floral wallpaper my late wife had picked out 20 years ago. They danced across my chest. "I'm down! I'm down!" I yelled, my knees hitting the linoleum hard. They didn't care that I was 68 years old. They didn't care that I was unarmed. A heavy boot pressed my face into the floor, twisting my arm behind my back until I felt the rotator cuff scream in protest. The cold steel of handcuffs bit into my wrists. "Clear the rooms! Secure the children!" a voice barked. "Don't scare them!" I shouted into the floor, dust filling my mouth. "They're sleeping. Please, just let me wake them up." "Shut up, suspect," the officer on top of me growled. Suspect. The word hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Then I heard it. The terrifying sound of Mia screaming. "Grandpa! Grandpa!" "It's okay, Mia," I tried to yell, but the officer shoved my face harder into the ground. "I'm right here." I twisted my neck, trying to see. They were dragging Leo and Mia out of their bedrooms. Leo looked pale, his eyes wide behind his glasses, paralyzed with shock. Mia was kicking and thrashing, fighting like a wildcat. "Let them go," I roared, adrenaline momentarily masking the pain in my shoulder. And then, the sea of black uniforms parted. The chaotic noise seemed to dampen, replaced by the clicking of high heels on my wooden floor. Walking through the broken frame of my front door was a woman I hadn't seen in 7 years. Nicole. She didn't look like the Nicole I remembered. The Nicole who left was a ghost, gaunt, shivering, wearing a stained hoodie and smelling of burnt chemicals and desperation. The woman standing in my living room looked like she had just stepped out of a private jet. She wore a tailored white pantsuit that probably cost more than my truck. Her hair was a glossy golden cascade, perfectly styled. She held a designer handbag in the crook of her arm and wore oversized sunglasses, even though it was gloomy outside. She looked down at me, pinned to the floor of the home she grew up in, and sneered. It wasn't a look of pity. It was a look of triumph. "Thank God you're here, officers," she said, her voice trembling with a theatrical fragility. "That's him. That's the man who stole my babies." Stole. The word punched the air out of my lungs. "Nicole?" I wheezed. "What are you doing?" She ignored me. She rushed past my prone body toward the kids. "Oh, my poor darlings. Mommy is here. Mommy finally found you." She reached for Mia, but Mia shrank back, pressing herself against the wall. Mia didn't know this woman. To Mia, Nicole was a stranger who smelled of expensive perfume and betrayal. Nicole had left when Mia was 2. "Who are you?" Mia cried, tears streaming down her face. Nicole's face twitched, a micro-expression of annoyance, before she smoothed it back into the mask of a grieving mother. "It's Mommy, sweetie. I know he told you lies. I know he brainwashed you. But I'm here to save you." "Get away from them!" I shouted, struggling against the cuffs. "You abandoned them. You left them here." "He's violent!" Nicole shrieked, turning to the police sergeant. "You see? He's unstable. Get him out of here." The sergeant hauled me to my feet. "Phillips Miller, you are under arrest for 2 counts of custodial interference and kidnapping in the 1st degree." "Kidnapping?" I stared at him, bewildered. "I've raised them for 7 years. She walked out. She left them." "Tell it to the judge," the sergeant said, shoving me toward the door. As they dragged me out into the rain, I looked back. I saw Leo standing by the kitchen table. He wasn't crying. He was watching Nicole with a cold, analytical stare. He saw the way she gripped Mia's arm too tight. He saw the way she checked her reflection in the hallway mirror while feigning distress. "Leo!" I shouted. "Take care of your sister. I'll be back. I promise." The last thing I saw before the patrol car door slammed shut was Nicole waving at a cameraman standing on my lawn. She wasn't waving hello. She was posing. The holding cell smelled of bleach, old sweat, and hopelessness. It's a smell that settles in your pores and stays there. I sat on a steel bench, shivering in my wet clothes. My shoulder throbbed with a dull, sickening rhythm. I closed my eyes and let the memory of that day 7 years ago wash over me. It was raining then, too. Nicole had shown up at 2 a.m., banging on the door. She was high, vibrating with nervous energy. She had Leo in one arm and Mia in a car seat. "I just need a day, Dad," she had pleaded, her eyes darting around the yard like she was being hunted. "I need to sleep. I need to get straight. Just take them for 24 hours. "You need rehab, Nicole," I had told her, taking the kids inside. I know," she had said, backing away toward a rusted sedan waiting in the driveway. "I'm going to fix it, I promise. Just one day." She got in the car. I saw the silhouette of a man in the driver's seat. Shaved head, neck tattoos. They peeled out of the driveway, spraying gravel. One day turned into a week. A week turned into a month. I filed missing person reports. I called every rehab center in the state. Nothing. She had vanished off the face of the earth. I didn't have money for lawyers. I didn't have legal custody papers. I just had two terrified kids who needed to eat and go to school. So, I became their father. I went to parent-teacher conferences. I learned how to braid hair. I put ice on scraped knees and chased away nightmares. And now, I was the criminal. "Miller!" A guard banged on the bars. "Lawyer!" They led me into a small interrogation room. Sitting at the metal table was a young man who looked like he hadn't started shaving yet. His suit was ill-fitting, and he was nervously tapping a pen against a legal pad. "Mr. Miller?" he squeaked. "I'm Gary, public defender." "Gary," I said, sitting down heavily, "tell me when I can go home to my grandkids." Gary grimaced. "That's complicated. The prosecution is asking for no bail. They're painting you as a flight risk and a danger to the children." "Danger?" I laughed, a bitter, dry sound. "I'm the only reason they're alive." "Look," Gary said, pulling out a tablet. "You need to see what we're up against." He tapped the screen and slid it over. It was a news clip. The headline screamed, "Grandfather's House of Horrors, Missing Children Found After 7 Years." On the screen, Nicole was standing at a podium outside the police station. Beside her stood a man who looked like a viper in a three-piece suit. Slicked back hair, shark eyes. "That's Marcus Thorne," Gary whispered. "Top family law attorney in the state. He charges $1,000 an hour." On the screen, Nicole was wiping away a tear. "I searched every day," she sobbed into the microphones. "For 7 years, I looked for my babies, my father. He's a monster. He threatened to kill them if I ever came back. He held them hostage." "Lies," I growled, pushing the tablet away. "She's lying through her teeth." "Mr. Thorne claims you chased her off with a shotgun," Gary said quietly. "He has an affidavit." "I don't own a shotgun," I said. "I fix cars, Gary. I don't shoot people." "It doesn't matter what the truth is right now," Gary said, looking defeated. "It matters what the narrative is. She's the grieving mother who made good. She's wealthy now, Mr. Miller. She has resources. You have, well, you have a public defender." I leaned forward. "Where did she get the money, Gary?" "She left here with $20 and a drug habit." "We don't know," Gary admitted. "But she's petitioning for immediate, full custody." "And since you never formalized your guardianship?" "Because I couldn't find her to get her to sign the papers." I slammed my fist on the table. Gary flinched. "I believe you, Phillips. But right now, you're looking at 10 to 20 years in prison. We need to focus on keeping you out of jail, not fighting a custody battle you can't win." I stared at him. He was a nice kid, but he was useless. He was bringing a plastic spoon to a knife fight. If you believe that children are not pawns to be used for money, and that grandparents who step up deserve respect, not handcuffs, please hit that like button right now. Let's get this story out there. They denied bail initially, but Gary managed to get a hearing. The judge set it at $100,000. It might as well have been $1 billion. I sat in that cell for 3 days. 3 days of wondering if Leo had his inhaler. 3 days of wondering if Mia was crying herself to sleep. On the 4th day, I got a visitor. I expected Gary. Instead, I saw a man with a thick gray beard wearing a stained trucker hat and a leather vest. "Sarge?" I breathed. Sarge wasn't actually a sergeant. It was just a nickname he picked up in the biker scene. He ran the scrap yard where I picked up shifts. He was rough, he smelled like diesel and old tobacco, but he was the most loyal man I knew. "You look like hell, Phil," Sarge grunted, sitting down on the stool on the other side of the glass. "I feel like it." "How are the kids?" Sarge's face darkened. "She's got him at the Grand Hotel downtown, rented the penthouse, got security guards at the door. I tried to drop off Leo's robotics kit, figured he needed a distraction, but they threatened to call the cops on me." Is she hurting them?" "Psychologically, probably," Sarge said. "But physically? Nah, she's treating them like dolls, dressing them up in fancy clothes, parading them around for cameras. It's a show, Phil. It's all a big show." "Where is the money coming from, Sarge?" I asked again. "That's the key. Nicole is lazy. She doesn't work for money. She schemes for it." Sarge leaned in close to the glass. "I've been digging. You know I got friends who know how to look into things the cops don't touch." "And?" "Her boyfriend. The one she's been with for the last year. He ain't a boyfriend. He's a fixer for a tech firm in Silicon Valley. But here's the kicker. Remember the kid's dad? The one Nicole said was some drifter who died in a motorcycle crash? Yeah. Turns out he wasn't a drifter. He was a coder, one of the original guys at Aurora Systems." My eyes widened. Aurora Systems was huge. They made the microchips that ran half the world's smartphones. "He died 6 months ago," Sarge whispered. "Heart attack, no will. But he was listed on the birth certificates, Phil. Nicole made sure of that back then to get welfare." "The inheritance," I realized, the blood draining from my face. "Bingo," Sarge said. $18.5 million. But it's in a trust. It only releases to the legal guardian of the children." "She's selling them," I whispered. "She's not back for them. She's back for the paycheck." The next day, Marcus Thorne came to see me. He didn't sit down. He stood in the interrogation room, checking his expensive watch. "Mr. Miller," he said, his voice smooth as oil, "I'm here to offer you a graceful exit." "Go to hell," I said. Thorne chuckled. "Predictable. Look, Nicole is generous. She knows you, assisted, in the children's upbringing. She's willing to drop the kidnapping charges. She's even willing to write you a check. $50,000. 50,000? Enough to retire, move to Florida, buy a fishing boat. All you have to do is sign this." He slid a document across the table. "It's a confession. You admit that you kept the children from her, that you regret your actions, and you agree to a permanent restraining order. You never see them again." I looked at the paper. It was a deal with the devil. Freedom for me, but a life of misery for Leo and Mia. I thought about the money, son. I thought about the cold cell. Then I thought about Mia's laugh. I thought about the way Leo looked at me when he finished his first robot. I stood up. I picked up the paper. "You tell Nicole," I said quietly, "that she can take her money and choke on it." I ripped the paper in half, then in half again. I threw the confetti in Thorne's face. Thorne didn't flinch. He just brushed a piece of paper off his lapel. "Pity. I enjoy destroying people in court, Mr. Miller. But I thought you might be smarter than you look. Enjoy prison." Sarge posted my bail. He put up his scrapyard as collateral. If I ran, he lost everything. "You're crazy, Sarge," I told him as we walked out of the jail into the blinding afternoon sun. "Yeah, well, I like those kids more than I like my crane," Sarge grunted. "Now, what's the plan?" "We need the envelope," I said. "What envelope?" "The one I hid 7 years ago, the day she left." We drove to my house. It was still wrapped in crime scene tape. The windows were boarded up where the police had smashed them. "We can't go in there," Sarge said. "It's a crime scene. If you get caught, bail is revoked." "I don't need to go in the front door," I said. I knew a loose panel in the back of the workshop that led into the crawl space. I had shimmied through there 100 times to check the plumbing. I waited until dark. Sarge kept watch in the truck. I crawled through the mud, ignoring the pain in my knees. I got inside the house. It was wrecked. The police had tossed everything. Drawers emptied, mattresses slashed. They were looking for evidence of a dungeon or abuse. I walked to the hallway. The family portrait, a picture of my late wife Martha, was crooked, hanging by one nail. The glass was cracked. My heart hammered against my ribs. Had they found it? I lifted the frame. There, taped to the cardboard backing, covered in a layer of dust, was a yellow envelope. I peeled it off, my hands shaking. I didn't open it. I knew what was inside. I tucked it into my shirt, right against my skin. I got back to the truck. Sarge was listening to a police scanner. "We gotta move, Phil," he said. "Scanner says they're putting a detail on the hotel." "Something's happening." "What?" "Flight plan filed. Private charter. Destination, Zurich, Switzerland." "Switzerland?" I choked. "She's taking them out of the country." "Non-extradition for custody disputes if she plays it right," Sarge said. "Once those wheels go up, you never see them again." "When does it leave?" 2 hours. The airfield outside of town." "Drive," I said. "Drive fast." Sarge's tow truck wasn't built for speed, but he drove it like a Ferrari. We tore down the coastal highway, the rain lashing against the windshield. We reached the private airfield's perimeter fence. We could see the jet on the tarmac, engines whining. A black SUV was parked by the stairs. I saw them. Nicole was dragging Mia up the stairs. A large security guard was carrying Leo, who was kicking and screaming. "They're leaving," I yelled. "Ram the gate." "Hold on," Sarge yelled. He floored it. The heavy truck smashed through the chain-link gate with a screech of tearing metal. We bounced onto the tarmac. The pilot saw us. The engines roared louder. "Block the runway," I shouted. Sarge swerved the truck directly into the path of the jet. He slammed the brakes, and the truck skidded to a halt sideways, blocking the nose of the plane by 50 yards. I jumped out. I didn't have a weapon. I had a tire iron I grabbed from the floorboard. "Let them go!" I screamed, running toward the plane. Security guards swarmed out of the SUV. 3 of them. Big guys. "Grandpa!" Leo screamed from the stairs. Nicole turned. She looked furious. "Get them on the plane, now! Stop!" I ran harder, my bad knee screaming. A guard tackled me. I hit the asphalt hard. I tasted blood, but I didn't stop fighting. I swung the tire iron, hitting him in the shin. He grunted and let go. I scrambled up. "Nicole, you can't take them." She looked down at me from the top of the stairs, the wind whipping her hair. "Watch me, old man. You're finished." Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. I had broken bail. I had broken into an airport. I was going to prison for the rest of my life. "Do it for the money, Nicole," I shouted. "Just don't take them where I can't protect them." "Protect them?" She laughed, a cruel high sound over the jet engines. "I'm protecting them from poverty. From you." The police cruisers screeched onto the tarmac, boxing us in. Officers poured out, guns drawn. "Drop the weapon! On the ground!" I dropped the tire iron. I fell to my knees, hands in the air. I watched as the police escorted Nicole and the kids off the plane. They weren't letting them leave. Not because of me, but because the airfield was now a crime scene. I had bought them time. The trial was 2 weeks later. It was a media circus. The Kidnapping Grandpa was the headline of the month. I sat at the defendant's table wearing an orange jumpsuit. I had fired Gary. I was representing myself. The judge, Judge Harrison, was a stern woman with glasses perched on the end of her nose. She looked at me with disdain. Marcus Thorne put on a show. He called witnesses who said I was a loner. He showed photos of my messy workshop. He painted me as a hoarder, a lunatic who stole children to replace his dead wife. Nicole cried on the stand. She was perfect. He threatened me, she sobbed. He said if I ever tried to take them, he'd make sure I disappeared. The jury was eating it up. I could feel the hate radiating from the gallery. "Mr. Miller," the judge said, peering over her glasses, "do you have any questions for the witness?" I stood up. My chains rattled. "No questions, Your Honor," I said, "but I have evidence." "Evidence?" Thorne scoffed. "We've seen the discovery." "There is no evidence." "New evidence," I said. "I found it. Or rather, I retrieved it." I reached into my jumpsuit. The bailiff stepped forward, hand on his taser. I moved slowly. I pulled out the yellow envelope. It was wrinkled. It was stained with dust. "What is that?" the judge asked. "The truth," I said. I walked to the bench. Thorne tried to object, but the judge silenced him with a hand. I handed her the envelope. "Open it, please," I said. The courtroom was silent. The only sound was the tearing of paper. Judge Harrison pulled out a single sheet of notebook paper. It was yellowed with age. She read it. Her eyes widened. She read it again. Then she looked at the second item in the envelope. A photograph. The color drained from her face. She looked up at Nicole, who was suddenly very still in the witness box. Is this authentic?" the judge asked, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "It's notarized," I said. "Check the seal. Dated 7 years ago." The judge looked at the paper again. She cleared her throat. "I will read this into the record," she said. Nicole stood up. "No, you can't." "Sit down," the judge barked. The gavel came down like a gunshot. The judge began to read. "I, Nicole Miller, hereby relinquish all parental rights and physical custody of Leo Miller and Mia Miller to my father, Phillips Miller. I agree to never return, never contact them, and never claim them as my own. In exchange, I accept the sum of $22,000 to pay off my debts to Diego Mendez." The courtroom gasped. "And," the judge continued, her voice icy, "there is a receipt attached, and a photo." She held up the photo. It showed Nicole, 7 years younger, looking high and desperate, counting a stack of cash on my kitchen table. In the background, Leo and Mia were crying in a playpen. "You didn't run away because you were scared," I said to Nicole, my voice ringing through the quiet room. "You didn't get chased off with a shotgun. You sold them. You sold your own children for 20 grand so you wouldn't get killed by a drug dealer." Nicole's face crumpled. The mask fell away. "I had to," she screamed. "They were going to kill me." "So you sold your babies?" the judge asked, looking at her like she was something stuck to the bottom of a shoe. "And now," I said, turning to the jury, "she's back. Not because she loves them, but because she found out their father left them $18 million. She's not here for custody. She's here for the debit card." Thorne was packing his briefcase. He was moving fast. He knew when a ship was sinking. "Mr. Thorne," the judge said dangerously, "sit down." It didn't take long after that. The kidnapping charges were dismissed with prejudice immediately. But the real justice came when the judge turned her attention to the custody hearing. "Nicole Miller," the judge said, "you are hereby stripped of all parental rights. I am issuing a permanent restraining order. If you come within 500 feet of those children, you will go to federal prison." Nicole was dragged out of the courtroom screaming. She wasn't screaming for her kids. She was screaming about the money. "It's mine. It's my inheritance. I earned it." I walked out of the courtroom a free man. Sarge was waiting for me. He slapped me on the back so hard I almost fell over. "You did it, you old son of a gun," he grinned. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the side door where a social worker was leading Leo and Mia out. Leo saw me. He broke away from the social worker. He didn't run. He just walked up to me, buried his face in my chest, and held on. Mia joined him a second later. "Did we win, Grandpa?" Leo asked, his voice muffled by my shirt. "Yeah, kid," I whispered, tears finally spilling over. "We won." We didn't stay in Oregon. The house had too many bad memories, and the town was too loud with reporters. The trust fund was locked down tight. I fired the fancy lawyers Nicole had hired and hired a boring, honest firm to manage it. I took a modest stipend, just enough to buy a cabin up in Montana, near a lake where the pines are taller than skyscrapers. We've been here 6 months now. I'm sitting on the porch as I write this. The sun is setting over the mountains, painting the sky purple and gold. Leo is down by the dock, testing his new underwater drone. Mia is trying to convince a squirrel to eat a peanut out of her hand. They are safe. They are happy. And they are mine. Not because I own them, but because I chose them. And they chose me. I think about the money sometimes. $18 million. It sits in a bank, gathering interest. Nicole thought that money was the prize. She thought it was the ticket to a good life. She didn't understand that the prize isn't the check. The prize is sitting on a porch, smelling the pine trees, knowing that the people you love are safe because you stood in front of the storm and didn't blink. I look at my hands. They're old. They're scarred. But they held on when it mattered. If you believe that family is about who stays, not who shares DNA, and that loyalty is worth more than any bank account, please hit that like button. Share this story. Let the world know that dads and grandpas are heroes too. And to the judge who asked if the kids knew about the envelope, I told him, not yet. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever tell them. They don't need to know their mother sold them. They just need to know their grandfather bought them back with the only currency that matters. Love. That's enough for me. This is Phillips, signing off. Take care of your own.